Hello, this is Sarah Tuberty, your host from Disarming Disability. Enjoy the following program on Public House Media. This is Kim Meyer, the host of Choose to Rise here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Choose to Rise, where we talk about living with positive mindsets, how to increase our confidence, building our faith, and living out our life on purpose. A new show comes out via podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if you want to catch the episode live instead, stop by Public House Media around 6:45 Central Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Choose to Rise. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Today's verse of the day comes from 1 Peter 3:7. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives, and treat them with respect as the weaker partner, and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Good morning and welcome to the Verse of the Day presented by Public House Media. I'm your host, Baxter Colburn. Thanks for being here for this episode. I am thrilled that you've taken time to join me for the show today. A quick reminder, if you enjoyed today's episode, I really hope that you'll go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. Any and all feedback is really appreciated, whether it's good feedback, whether it's bad feedback. If you've got a verse that you'd like to suggest, I'd love to hear about it. Just go over to Apple Podcasts on whatever device that you listen on for iOS and search for Verse of the Day and drop us a review. Let's embrace what God has to say for us today. On a recent episode, I talked about 1 Peter 3:4 and how our society is totally obsessed with body image. I made the point about that we as a society would rather you be a good-looking person over being a genuinely good person. Now, it's interesting because recently I was listening to a podcast called C. Jane Sell, and they used this very interesting example of how in the sales world, it's almost naturally assumed if you are good-looking that you'll be good at sales. Because why wouldn't people want to buy from an attractive woman or an attractive man? And it fascinated me because I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, because that is something that I had talked about just very recently on an episode, as I mentioned, back in 1 Peter 3:4. And it still rings true. And it bothers me. And I got great feedback about that episode, and I really appreciate everybody for doing that. So today I want to shift our overall discussion from body image to a new portion of 1 Peter, one that dives a little deeper into the world of husbands and wives and their relationships. I first off want to attack the whole weaker part of this verse right away, because God was not meaning for this to be a demeaning, phrase to women. It's based on simple human biology, okay? So first, men, we were made, more generally speaking, stronger and more physical than women. But don't get me wrong, though. I know at least several women in my life that could kick my butt up and down the road any day of the week. They are insanely strong, and I would probably lose a thumb more to them, let alone just, a general scrapping, as it were. But in this context, husbands are viewed as the protectors. We see that all throughout the history of the Bible. The more dominant member of the marriage, as it were. See, men and women need to be a unit. They need to be together. They need to be this strong tower constructed to serve God. See, I think Adam says it best back in Genesis 2:23 and 24. He said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." This is talking about Eve. "She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man." I think that's so beautiful. I think that really just kind of is something that I think resonates with all of us. See, I found that women today don't like to be second. It continues to be this movement of women and men are equal, right? And I think that's wonderful. I completely agree with that in regards to professional work, and when it comes to just general well-being of men and women. But when it comes to the general principles of what God lays out for us in the Bible, that is where we need to kind of take a step back from what our culture is saying and really kind of sink into the roles that God has designed for each of us. See, men must love our wives, and wives must respect their husbands. Women absolutely deserve equal opportunities in payment for their work, but when it comes to roles in marriage, see, God simply does not call the women to the role to be the head of the household or to take that leadership role in a marriage. Well, don't worry, I, as the head of the household, and so many other men that I've known, and just all throughout the existence of the human race, they've all failed, and we will continue to fail, and we will get back up, and we will then fail again, and then we will fight a little bit harder, and then we will get knocked down again, and we'll make it all better and fix it all, and it'll be great, and then we'll fail again, and we'll get back up. You see what I'm saying? It's just this repetitive process. But as we still fight to get back to normal countless times in our lives, see, what the kicker is here, folks, is that you need to look for the men who continue to get back up when things get hard, and not the ones who just walk away from their children and their wife when it just is too much. I've seen this happen firsthand in my own life, and honestly, it's just downright heartbreaking. The book of Ephesians is filled with all these really lovely verses, I think that do a great job of laying the roadmap for how we as men should act and treat women, especially those who become your wife. Here's just a couple of quick examples. Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Ephesians 5:28. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. And then Ephesians 5:33, nevertheless, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. All incredible reminders for us out of the book of Ephesians. And those are just 3 examples of what is just a stockpiled book of so many incredible examples. See, someone listening today could potentially be going through a rough patch in their marriage. I know what that's like. I've been there. Someone could be struggling right now with figuring out if they should take that next step with their significant other and pursue marriage. I've been there right with you also. See, don't be deterred rather, by the responsibilities of what marriage can bring. It is a joyous and incredible time in our life. God did not intend for man to be alone. We know that. He tells us that all throughout Scripture. Each one of us will go through very different things in our life, and you need to remember that. But ultimately, we must rely on his guidance and to lead our wives and family in all that we do. I really appreciate you joining me on this episode today, and I know that it's not always easy, and I know that sometimes it can be difficult with some of the topics that we cover, but I think that we have a really great understanding of what is going on, and I just encourage you to continue to just lean into God. Find that group at your church. Find that book of the Bible that just really speaks to you. Take time to just be in the Word. Listen to this show, listen to other shows that, dive into more what happens in the books of the Bible. It can really reap benefits on your life, and I'm so grateful that you took time out of your day today. I look forward to you being here for the next episode. You can go to publichousemedia.org and learn more information about the show and about the network. Don't forget to go to manafm.hu, and you can hear our show as it's being currently syndicated over in Budapest, Hungary, as a part of Mana FM. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to speaking with you next time on Verse of the Day.